Welcome along once again to the Cardiff City phone-in. Not the happiest bunch around us this evening, as you can expect, but we're joined tonight by Nigel Blues. Hi, Nigel.
Hey, Steve. How you boys?
Steve Thomas. I'm going to ask you about the amount of mileage you do following Cardiff City in a minute, Steve. Hello to you.
Yeah. Very much, Stevie.
And Mark Pontin also. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for coming on. Tell you what, I'll go straight to you, Steve. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you're a bright, articulate chap. You know, you've probably got good mental arithmetic. I don't think there's many people probably who travel as many miles watching City. I mean, a home games like, was it 300-mile round, Junior, or 250 miles?
Well, it's 170 miles, so 340 round trip. There's been some long trips this season, though it all started so well. I would like to say about Saturday that we found a great pub to have a pre-match drink in. And the fish and chips we got afterwards on the way home were pretty good as well.
Did you have mushy peas?
Yeah, yes, and curry sauce.
Good choice, yeah.
But leaving that to one side for a moment, we were up against it from the start. I mean, it reminds me so much of away games in the Premier League, whereby we genuinely play in the top six in the Premier League. In the couple of seasons we were up there, I thought, you know, you'd expect to be up against it, but I don't expect to be up against it the way we were on Saturday. It was just appalling. I mean, there was fantastic clearance off the line before we scored our first goal, which was to say it was against the run of play was an understatement. Apart from, I think we do need Colwell in the team. He's the only one who seems to want to come forward. Carl and Grant seemed to have a good game down the right. But I'd like to ask a question to everybody listening and to watching and to everybody on the panel here. Is Yeju any better than Ugbo? I'm thinking no. I mean, I cannot remember. Perhaps we blame the service, but I cannot remember Yeju, who apparently we've got to give some time to. I want to be wrong, but he's not really done anything for me at all. Ugbo scored a couple of goals for Sheffield Wednesday against Birmingham the other week. Have we caught a cold in getting rid of him? But yeah, come back to your original question, Steve. Yeah, a lot of mileage for not much return at the moment. But if I stop going, I'm going to miss something good, aren't I?
Well, there's a possibility. There's still 13 games to go, but I wouldn't bank on it at the moment. Steve, how many miles do you reckon? Rough guess. Do you reckon you spent traveling back and forth to watch Cardiff City so far this season?
So far this season, for. So halfway through the season, I luckily had a few weeks away, of course, with work. But
you lucky thing.
probably 5,000,
5,000 or 6,000 miles. Yeah.
So 5 or 6 carbon footprint, I have to say, but you know.
Yeah. Well, don't worry about your carbon footprint. Let's worry about the team getting a result more at the moment. Yeah. One step at a time. But I mean, you're pretty amiable, relaxed, common sense kind of guy. Scale of 1 to 10, how unhappy are you at the moment with the way the team are performing and traveling all that way and getting very little in return?
I'm still giving it a 3 or 4 because I genuinely believe they're trying. I think back to the night I met Mr. Worth at Huddersfield, which back in October seems like an absolute lifetime ago now, where we absolutely wiped the floor with them, beating them 4-0, followed it up with a 2-0 victory against Bristol, and we thought, yes, we're going somewhere now. But unfortunately, the wheel, to say the wheels have come off is a bit of an understatement. It seems to me that it's systematic of what's happened to us over recent years. We've been lucky in the players we got in last season and the season before to push on in the January window. But again, I think the squad has gradually got, no disrespect, obviously, the players involved. They're all professional footballers. They're all trying their best. But they progressively, in my opinion, got worse season after season since we came down from the Premier League. Unless there's a major sea change, we cannot possibly compete with the likes of Leeds, Southampton and Leicester in this league. It genuinely reminds me of away games in the Premier League against people like Manchester City and Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, when you look what's happened in Sheffield United, though, I suppose at least we didn't do that badly. But I take the point. Mark, I'll just come to you next, and I know Nigel's got a lot to say because I've seen some of his comments over the weekend. What the hell's going on, Mark? And how have we gone from a team who were knocking around, in fact, even in I think the playoffs at one stage? I mean, now we can't score goals for fun. We're conceding goals left, right, and centre. Morale seems to be an all-time low. And we're getting battered 4-1 away by, a decent side in Norwich. Yeah.
I have to question the tactics of the manager, if I'm honest. I know he's got injuries. It's difficult for him to change the shape, the system when there's a few players out. For example, he can't do 3 at the back now. McGuinness is injured, but Steve brought the point about Jesus. I can't for the life understand why you play with wingers and they keep cutting inside when you've got a target man up front. There's no crosses going into the box. There seems to be a pattern of defensive negative play rather than offensive pressing intensity. And even with a Norwich style team, we kept them up. We got to 1-0. You'd think that they're a far better team than us, but I also don't understand the loaning in Wilson Esbrand, a 22-year-old from Man City, when we've got a very good 22-year-old on loan to the Belgian team. I don't know what they're called, whatever it's called. What's the theory behind that? Because that guy didn't know what he was doing. Let's be honest. They swapped flanks because he was getting defensively found out at the time, and he's going to kill his confidence, isn't it? Let's be honest. As a young look like that, you might as well Isaac Davis playing, who's Cardiff City through and through, rather than do that. I don't know what they're paying for Josh Wilson. What's his name? But I just don't. You have to question the manager. You have to question the transfer policy in January, because I don't think Jesus will work out like a Kiefer Moore would have worked out, even though it's apparent that he didn't want to come to Cardiff. But you got to put the ball on his head. You know, he made some great defensive headers, Jesus. That's all he did. You need Ollie Tanner came on. He started trying to cross the ball in a bit, but Carlin Grant, Josh Bowler, or the other wingers are just cutting inside and trying to score themselves. Whether that's a tactical thing, I don't know. But the midfield is a shambles. It's an absolute shambles. They're just slicing through us at will. Any team, and it seems that he's got the two defensive-minded midfielders who get in each other's way. They don't know there's no boss there. There's no leader there. Even when Rawls playing, there's no strong leadership qualities there. But the tactics are negative. The tactics are, I don't think that I can remember a time where we expected to lose to Norwich. No disrespect to Norwich, but I went into that game thinking, well, I hope we don't lose by too many. This is Norwich. It's not Man City. You know what I mean? I have to question his tactics now. He's been found out. We got the results early on because no one knew what sort of system he's going to play, and he's a new in town manager. Now we've been found out, and he keeps playing the same shape, the same kind of pattern of play. He's limited via injuries, yes, but he can change it somewhat, you know. And I can't see any progress that's been made since October, and I can't see any progress that's going to be made until the end of the season. I'm looking down now rather than up.
Yeah. Also, Errol Bullitt, he mentioned the other week, he seems to be counting down the games. I suppose he's counting down the games in a couple of ways. Will he even see out those number of games? is one possibility. Also, he is out of contract at the end of the season. Some people might say great, because the form is not so good. But 13 games, I think, left now. It's just like we just nosedived into oblivion. I just ask you, Nige, does it? This is my thinking now. Yeah, how my thinking's like. Yeah, but my thinking is this: that and I know it's expensive, and I know we've had major issues as a football club, which transcend football, football stuff, much bigger stuff, Salah, etc. Yeah. So we've had all that stuff going on, and we had the transfer embargo as a result and all the rest of it. But we just haven't, even up to now, we haven't really signed a convincing striker at all, really, since Kiefer Moore's gone. And if we're not scoring goals, then, as soon as the first goal goes in, I'm thinking, well, we're stuffed already, really. Like first one went in, it was like queuing up really.
Yeah, well, West Brom last midweek, wasn't it? Was it Wednesday? That was a case in point. You settle down to watch the game. We won down in 30 seconds, and it's game over. You just know that it's not in it to fight back. But some of these strikers we got have scored. They are goal scorers, and they've all stopped scoring for us. And I know they're not the best, but bearing in mind we were a relegation fighting team last season, we were never going to get a top line striker. But Keon Atete, for example, I know there's a lot of different opinions about him. But the first 10 games this season, he scored 5, and now he's not scored in 19 since, and barely come close to scoring. And you just watch. I mean, here's a classic. The first 15 games this season, we got 27 points. We scored 27 goals. In fact, there was only it's an Ipswich at one point that scored every league game. All the other, where other teams were blanking, we were scoring every match. We got 16 points in 8 games at home. And then you can cut from the 25th of November, I think it is. Look at the last 15 games. We've got 13 points. We've had 4 points from 8 games at home. We scored 13 goals in 15 games. And 2 of them were own goals as well. It just defies belief, because essentially it's the same group of players who were putting on those standards the first couple of months of the season, where we were playing quite high intensity football. There was a press going on. There's no press anymore, is there? The defence was a pretty solid unit. They were letting in, a goal a game or less than a goal a game. They were keeping clean sheets on a fairly regular basis. And now you've gone to 23 in 10 games we're conceding. In the last 6 weeks, we've lost 6 times by 2 goals or more. To be honest, the away games we've had at Norwich, and even when we won at Watford, we looked like a lower division team going to a higher division team. Where at the beginning of the season, we were going to Leeds, Leicester, Ipswich. We might have lost all of those games, but we were damn lucky to have lost them all. We drew at Leeds.
Yeah.
We were competitive every match. That's all stopped.
Playing good football now as well. There's a comment on the screen. Can you see that comment from John Bartley Wilson? I don't know what Bullet is trying to do. If I don't know what Bullet is trying to do, how can the players? Seems bereft of ideas, picks the wrong 11s, makes the wrong subs, 2 negatives, especially at home, 2 defeats this week, and he's one for whom he says he has to go. What's your actual thoughts on that, Nigel? In terms of is it? We've had so many managers,
But I honestly think, Steve, that he's not going to be here for next season, because he doesn't give me the impression that he wants to be here. Because he's gone from a guy who you saw shouting on the touchline every game, coaching the players, demanding things of them. Post-match interviews, he used to be very upbeat. He set high standards, didn't he, on what he had on the pitch. He would have a go at players who he felt weren't putting in a performance level. And now you watch him now, he just looks resigned. His press conferences, you don't feel that he's fired up, and I think that's transferred onto the players. And I don't know what it is. I think the catalyst for me was when he spoke out last month saying, I might not be here. And he was obviously trying to get the players in on the transfer window. But that's just a terrible thing for a football manager to say, because his players are thinking, if that's what he's saying, what is his players thinking? And I know, Steve, we've spoken on here before. You watch him play, you don't see a single partnership on that pitch.
That's a really good point. Yeah,
there's no partnerships at all, and players are, Ryan Wintle, captain at West Brom, dropped on Saturday. It's just little things like that that are going on all the time. And as much as I like Bullet, and I think he's the best manager we've had in a long time, you really got to ask serious questions about where is he, what does he want, and why is he producing this football that's the complete opposite to what he was doing. I'd love to see some of the running stats of some of the Cardiff players, because you watch someone like Siopis. I know he's not playing as well, but the first few games of the season, he covered every blade of grass on that pitch. He's doing nothing of the like now. I know he's not playing as well, but he's nowhere near what he was producing for us earlier in the season. And he's not the only one. They've all dropped back in their standards. And I just think there's something wholly wrong going on down there on the training ground that transfers into performances in terms of whatever's been going on in the changing room. I'm not saying he's lost the changing room at all.
Well, people do.
It's on him. It is on him, I think, a lot of that.
Yeah. So Nigel, just while you're on, I'm trying to think how to phrase this. I know you spent a lot of time in Turkey. You love your holidays there. So do I, by the way. Yeah, and Turkish people, the Turkish people are amongst the most hospitable, nicest people
Absolutely.
you could ever care to meet. So I suppose there's your love of your football club probably transcends that. But the fact that he was kind of pretty well Dalman's man, and brought in by Dalman, the Turkish connection and all the rest of it. You just have to wonder, don't you, how that is playing out behind the scenes at a hierarchical level in the club,
Well, I think a few weeks ago, they would have loved Matt, even when he did that sort of rant last month. I think everyone wanted him to stay, and we were all giving him, he's got earned a lot of goodwill, and he's deserved it for the start he made to the season. But people are starting to question him, and certainly if I was, remember Delman, although he's his man, you really got to say, is he the man that's going to take us forward? Because this summer, they should have money to spend on players, and you've wanted this season to see us stabilise and progress, and he has taken us away from trouble. We only need 3 wins in the last 13 games, and that should be in them, even if they just struggle to do it. But it's not doing much for me to say I want to back that man with a few million quid this summer to build it, because he's not what he's produced in the last 3 or 4 months, which has been dire. We're going to see really low crowds tomorrow and Saturday, and that's because of the football that's going on down there, which is bad as it's been any time in the last few seasons.
Yeah. Mark, so I'm not putting Nigel on the spot here now, but it's kind of interesting, Nigel, lifelong fan, well-known City fan. Here we are, 13 games from the season. He hasn't quite put it this way, but it's a lot. If we get, we're getting like 10 points from the last 13 games, and we're safe, then that's okay. But compared to what the mindset that we had when the bullet train was, had some coal in it earlier in the season, Mark, how things have changed.
Well, we should have been relegated last year with 49 points. Yeah. So 3 wins is 9 points. It still might not mean we're safe. If it wasn't for the points deduction, we would have gone down last year. I just, I'm a bit tentative to speak my real mind, Steve, but I don't like the way the club is running. It's been run. I really don't. I don't think Bullet had much to say in the transfer of players coming in, and I think he's just lost all ambition. I think he had a lot of potential. When I watched David Turnbull's on YouTube before he played the first game for us, and I was excited. I thought this young kid is a good creative attacking midfield player, and he doesn't know where to be, what to do. It's like as the ball is played out of our defense, that's it. There's no idea who's going to do what with it. The number of times they stand there, kick it back and forth to each other, waiting for some movement and then it just ends up going back to the goalkeeper. That's got to be coming from somewhere. Footballers naturally want to play and want to win usually, and there's just an apathy. And but I question. We've got an owner that's prepared to spend multi-millions on court cases all the time, and I don't think he backs Bullet in this transfer window. I don't think I don't think he's going to back him. I don't hear at the end of the season whether he gets sacked before or not. I don't know. I think they'll probably count on him to keep us up because we've got a little bit of a lead once we've got in the bag, but I don't think he'll be it.
So where does that in terms of, I don't suppose I mean literally, but where does that leave Mehmet Dalman as the man who kind of figureheaded this guy coming into the club? Let's face it, at the time, between the 4 of us, for example, I'd never heard of Errol Bullet. I didn't know anything about him. Yeah, this guy comes in from Turkey. He's been brought in, Dalman's man, and this guy's got something special, and la la la. If it all does go horribly wrong, that's not a good look for him, is it?
Well, no, but like I said, I'm tentative to discuss. I know you know what I'm all thinking. I just don't want to say. You know, I wish that when Dave Jones, Lenny Lawrence was manager and the club was about to be sold, that we sold it to someone else. That's what I wish. I wish by now we could have been a Brighton, you know, because we were making progress then. And yes, we've been in the Premier League twice, but it's been a shambles. It's been a shambles, and I just wish that we deserve an owner that's just, you know, that really understands that if you don't know anything about football, get someone in that does, you know, get some supporting staff that do, because there's something rotten going on. I just don't. It's despair. I mean, I've been watching since I was a little boy. You know, 1976 was my first game, and we've seen some really rough times. And I should be thankful, really, that we're in the championship. We're a championship team, etc. But you know, it's just it attacks your heart and soul. You know, everyone who watches Cardiff City's got a heart and soul invested in that team. And it just, when it feels wrong, it just feels wrong, you know.
We're bringing Steve back in a second, but Mark, just to say, you know, you live towards the west of the area. Yeah. You may come across supporters of other football clubs in your vicinity. I wonder, have there been any kind of banter going on with those?
Well, they're struggling as well at the moment, aren't they? So it's we're actually 4 points above them still. So they're in the same kind of boat, you know. They're worried about going down, but let's not talk about them. Let's talk about Cardiff.
All right, fair enough. Steve, there's a couple of comments coming in. I'll go to one from Ian Stewart in a second, but I'm just going to call this one up on the screen now from Jonathan Wilkins. Hi, Jonathan. Hopefully get you back on the show again soon. You were a great guest. Bullet is trying his best to get us relegated. We have the players, but its tactics and formation leave a lot to be desired. We're slow, ponderous, no leaders. Absolute shambles. So, Steve, as a person who's seen City away pretty well, you know, a large part of the season and home actually, and travelling to do so, can you put any positivity into that?
I don't think he's trying to get us relegated.
I don't think he means literally, but he means the way it's going. He's doing his best.
That night you mentioned about West Brom. I was behind the goal in the corner, as fans were, and you obviously see the two managers. You got one manager jumping up and down, shouting, waving, pointing, and you can guess which team that manager was managing.
Yeah.
Us. But
that was Bullet earlier this season.
Absolutely. But he did get booked into Preston. He got booked in one game. Was he what he got booked in one game recently?
He did. Yeah.
I think
West Brom, wasn't it? I think it was West Brom.
Yeah. I think also, Steve, come back to your point about nobody had heard of Bullet. Now, I'm not going to claim hindsight. Hindsight's a wonderful thing here. But I was reminded, and I looked up his name today because I thought I could mention it tonight. Do you remember the Russian Slutsky who came into Hull, and he previously managed CSK Moscow and the Russian national team. They say he's coming with a great pedigree, and yet I was concerned he might go the same. Bullet might go the same way as him, in that somebody comes in with a great pedigree from abroad, but doesn't know the Championship. The Championship's a very kind of unique sort of league, and I was concerned that he might get found out. Obviously, I was over the moon for the first few months of the season. I was shouting, "Get on the Bullet train!" Obviously, but it's kind of sort of downhill. I agreed to a point what Jonathan said there about the lack of tactics. Again, it's not so much that it's the way the other teams are working out our tactics. So, you know, previously we got Carl and Grant on one side, now we got Bowler on the other. That they would run the show. However, now they're being locked up the whole time, so we've got no way to get the service forward. We've been found out we've got to change something. I think we've got to change something because the other teams have worked us out.
And what do you think about the new signings so far, including the goalkeeper?
Well, I agree with Mark about Turnbull. He did look a very good signing. Again, the player from Manchester City, I think he very much untried. But then so I suppose was Tommy Doyle when he came in last season. It's difficult to see. It's a good thing we brought in the extra centre back. I said when we talked just before I was on here before, we talked just before the window, and you asked me who I wanted, and I said we need a new centre back, got him, a new central midfield player, got him, and a new striker, got him, and yet we seem to be disappointed with everything we've got. And I think that comes to the point I made at the start, in that we the players we've got in seem to be worse going forward. Again, I'll come back to Mark's point as well about Dave Jones. When Dave Jones came in after taking over after Lenny Lawrence had gone, every season we gradually got better. We got to the playoffs a few times, and then Dave Jones perhaps had taken the club as far as he could, as had Lenny Lawrence before him. Malky then comes in, and then we had the season where we got to the League Cup final, and then we got promoted the following season. Then, of course, there were well-documented changes that caused a huge split in the fan base. That didn't help at all. However, I was also reminded, thinking about Siopis having gone downhill, Gary Medell. Gary Medell, when he came in, I thought, blimey, what sort of player have we got here? Yet towards the end of the season, he seemed to just lose interest. I can only hope if players like that lose interest, they might do what some players do and start to put themselves in the shop window because they want to go somewhere else and play a little bit better in the remaining games.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to come back to one player in a second for you from Ian Stewart mentioned, but you just made me think Nigel will like this one. Derek Brazil. I'm trying to get Derek on the show again.
Yeah.
I think it was Derek who said you should do you can ring my bell. Gary Medell should be the song. You never, not sure if that ever kicked off. But going back to what you said earlier, Steve, about Jesus, and Ian. Hi, Ian. Ian started off a new thing on the show called YOY. Yeah. And he said, so with his YOY questions, still early days, but I haven't seen anything yet from Jesus to inspire me. How would you describe him as a player? You know, is he hold up the ball, bring other people in? Is he good in the air? Does he rough people up? Has he got pace? Does he like to shoot? Is he any of that?
I think I'm firmly sitting on the fence here. And it's very uncomfortable because I don't know. I think we've all picked up. He's done a few good defensive headers. We put everybody back to defend corners. Yeah. That was one of the YOYs for me in the other week, wasn't it? About why do we have every single player back defending a corner? He has been able to clear the ball. That's what I've seen him do well at the moment. But apart from that, I'm not sure if he's got pace. I'm not sure. He certainly doesn't sort of get in the faces of the defenders. No. But then, fair to him, if the ball gets played to him, whether it's him or Etete, there's nobody coming forward. So obviously, if you're going to go for a target man, play the ball for the target man, the midfielder have got to get through to support them. And then if the ball does come back, there's midfielders should be there picking up the second ball. We don't ever seem to pick up the second ball.
And Nigel, of course, Kiefer Moore. Apparently, he said he was going to Ipswich for a year. So apparently, all that was going on. And then you hear that even some of the club, players at the club were trying to encourage him to come, and it actually happened last minute. And we had to bring in a striker, so we brought in Jesus. But he's scoring goals for fun there, isn't he?
Yeah, he's doing really well, and he would have. Well, would he have scored goals for us? I don't know, because I think the problem is none of those strikers get any service at Cardiff. Yeah. I did comment on Twitter on Saturday that Norwich got behind us and put more balls into our area across our box in 60 minutes on Saturday than we've managed since October. Because time and again, they were getting behind Romeo and Jamilu. And, if JJ was playing for Norwich, I'm sure he would have got a couple. He's playing for Cardiff, though. And, there's no service for any striker. You can have the best striker in the world down there, and they wouldn't get more than a handful of goals playing in this team at the moment. I don't think he's that bad a player, but you can't judge him on those two games at West Brom and Norwich because there was so little going forward. The only time he actually did well, I felt on Saturday, was when he had Grant and Colwell both playing on the right, and they were, Colwell in particular was causing a lot of problems. And then we go one up, and the first thing he does is put Grant on the opposite side. I think that was partly to protect Jamilu, but then that took all of our threat away. We barely had a threat after that. So you can see we got players who can cause trouble if you can get them in the right positions and stick at it. But he's a bit of a tinkerer. He's got a right footer on the left, a left footer on the right. They're inverted wingers. They cut inside time and again. We're just very predictable. And if you're a centre half playing against a Cardiff striker, because there's always 2-on-1 in there, it's two centre halves against one Cardiff forward. What an easy afternoon they're always going to have. We don't give them any trouble.
I mean, Andrew Davis has come in with bullet stays and numbered. Could be as early as Saturday night. I mean, if we lose,
if it goes wrong this week,
next two home games, what do you think?
We're playing. The two teams we're playing this week. I said Cardiff are 22nd on form since the middle of November. Blackburn are 23rd and Stoke are 21st. Blackburn have taken 1 point from their last 7 away games. So if he can't get results and performances out of those 2 home games this week, we can be in serious trouble because they're not going to have many better opportunities and get points on the board than those 2.
And Nigel, you know, I'm just looking at it. Obviously, you know, I think I've got to say, we're really missing McGuinness. I really think we're missing him, because talking about partnerships, the partnership between him and Gutas was a strong partnership. I thought very good, actually.
Yeah.
Robinson, I don't even know what's wrong with Robinson. Can he still be ill after all this time? I don't know. Of course, O'Dowd has been out for months. He's had a terrible season health-wise. Of course, you know, the main man himself, Ramsey's out again. We're hearing from the club it may only be a week, but he is a major worry, isn't he, with his health issues. And of course, Alnwick. And so we've had to bring the the American lad into goal. So just 5 key players. They'd absolutely all, most of them be in the team, if not on the bench for sure. So we're missing those 5 players. We haven't got a massive squad, but bearing that in mind, Nige, in terms of the way we line up, we're talking about it being negative. For a starting point, if you I don't know whether you would, if you played 3 up front, who would they be, and how would you line them up?
I think it's the first change has got to come from the midfield. I mean, it's that last home game against Preston. We lined up with 2 defensive midfielders, and you know they're no great shakes. Preston, not a bad team. They're on our sort of level.
They're okay, yeah.
But yeah, you're almost conceding that you're not really not going to attack them that much. You know, it's this cautious approach, isn't it? So I think he needs to just get one of those guys in favour of more creative midfielders. You 3 up front. You could perm any one of those forwards, because I think he's got to go for 2, haven't he? He's got to give a half to one each of them, which I'm guessing is going to be a Tete or Jeju. And the other option, of course, is whether they put Carlin Granted. Well, I think Mate's injured, isn't he? So
is he as well? Okay.
Yeah, he had it could only be Cardiff, where he has a 25-yard shot and pulls his hamstring or something last week, didn't he? So it can only be a Cardiff strike, and that happens.
He hurt himself trying to score. That's why we don't do
it. So I think it's going to be a Tete or Jeju. They'll probably have a half each, or one of them will have an hour. But it's getting support with them, and whether it's the Celtic play, you've really got to try and build a little bit more around Ruben Colwill, because our only creativity and attacking threat recently has come from Ruben Colwill, and yet he has that great game at Watford. They pull him off and we can see possession. He got dropped last week at West Brom after a good game, didn't he? That's a player you really need, because there's not many players who can produce what he can in our team at the moment and make things happen and bring other people into the game. He's always looking to go play forward, and we do need to play front football again. We've stopped doing that completely.
Yeah, and Mark, you made the point earlier, with McGuinness being missing. In all the best will in the world, Jamila Collins he's decent left back. He's not a central defender, so he's having to play that role, which is just doesn't suit him at all. If we had McGuinness, then he could play, Wilson, Ellis, Brown, Phillips as a kind of as a wing back, and arguably NG could operate on the other. But I quite liked it against West Brom. I thought we actually missed that goal, didn't we? Tete missed that goal. We had a chance of pulling it back to 1-1 there, but we looked we looked much better with two up front.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is he's just brought Jeju into the club. To start dropping him is going to kill his confidence before he's even started. I think he needs to look at the service from an attacking point of view to his front man, but I don't get the like Nigel said, the philosophy of the midfield is completely wrong. I mean, we're pretty limited. Well, if we lose a centre back to injury, we're pretty limited because you can't throw a youngster in and go 3 at the back and then have the 2 wing backs. It's too much of a risk. So we have to play the 2 centre backs and the 2 full backs. But he needs to decide what he's doing in the middle, because he puts his faith in Winkle 1 week, like Nigel said, and then he'll put Siopis on, and then Rawls comes back to fitness, and he doesn't really know what to do then. So he's even if Winkle had a good game the previous week, he'll drop him and put Siopis back in, and if you want to look at the confidence level of the players being affected, they don't know whether they're going to be playing or not week in, week out, and they don't know what system really they're supposed to be playing in, what their roles are. He's now tinkering around with this Wilson Esbrand, and is he a fullback? Is he a wing back? Is he a winger? You know, he's kind of trying it. He should be trying it more on the training ground rather than trying it in games. It was obvious on the weekend that defensively, he's moaned all season about Tanner not tracking back and Carlin Grant and Callum Robinson not defend. Well, Wilson Ebbrand is another one that defensively he couldn't hack it. You know, he wasn't used to that position. So he swapped flanks with him. That didn't work. So he took him off half time. I mean, the guy doesn't know his first 11, does he? I mean, and what's wrong with throwing? Because when Keon Atete came on, he held the ball up better, but like Nigel said, there was no one there to hold the ball up for. What's wrong with Ashford who was on the bench, and giving him a go? You know, what if he's going to be tinkering that much? Give the youngster who's got a little bit of spirit, give him a run, especially at 3-1 down.
Yeah, I would have done that on Saturday. The game was gone, wasn't it, at 3-1, and then he brings on Bowler, and he's not produced anything other than that goal at Watford since I can't remember really. Yeah, you should have had Ashford or Joel Colwell. You've got to give these boys a chance.
And then you got Bowler, who all he does is cut inside and try and take the glory because he's had the odd time when he has scored, and fair play to him. But when you got a target man, if you got wingers, you know. That's what you pay your striker for, to put in the net, you know.
But if you're a defender, and if you're a defender and a professional footballer, and you're managed by a half decent manager, you're going to prepare for these matches. So you and I, we know what Josh Bowler's going to do. We know he's going to cut inside. We know we're going to get on his left foot. But so does everyone else in the Championship.
Exactly. I mean, he does have enough technique to put it off occasionally. But if he was running old-fashioned down the wing, almost to the byline, putting across.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Midfield a chance to get forward. It gives the number 10 a chance to get forward in a supportive role. And you might as well not have a striker if you're going to get your wingers to cut inside. Why isn't he telling him not to cut inside? He's quick to tell Tanner to track back and Colwell to be defensive. Why isn't he telling Josh Bowler, you've got to put more crosses in, mate? I don't get the management of it. You know, it's. I mean, I gave him the benefit of the doubt for a long time. And I thought, this guy, when he first came in, he did well. But I always had the old Mick McCarthy thing in my head. Yeah, well, when they find him out, that's it. His tactics will be, found out, and he won't have anything else. No plan B. And he had a plan B. He just had.
Yeah, I'm just going to show this one just to lighten things up a bit. This is fairly funny. Much better without Al.
I agree more.
Just put that one in there. Steve, I'm going to ask you this, and I'm going to go around the panel on this one. Yeah, I was thinking about this. I had an interesting journey here tonight, but I won't go into it now. But I won't go into it now. Right. Who in your time of following? When did you start watching City, Steve?
My first game was 1972.
72. Okay, so that's just over. Well, was that 50 years or something?
Yeah.
52 years, 52 seasons. Three favorite managers, three best managers in that time. It seems we're talking about Bullet tonight.
That's a heck of a good question. Right, I'm going for Richie Morgan first of all. Richie Morgan, who took us to quite high up in the division, and then of course we started off the 81-82 season quite well, and he was moved upstairs, and we ended up getting relegated. I'd go for Len Ashurst for what he did in 82-83, only spending money, I think £10,000 on Jimmy Mullen, and oh goodness me, after that, for the football we played, and how exciting it was to watch us at the time, I'd go for Dave Jones as the third.
Yeah, okay, and no Solskjaer in there, which is a bit of a surprise. Nige, what about you?
Well, the first manager when I first went down to City was Jimmy Schooler. So
I
really
love
going
Jimmy,
back
I
to
love
the
Jimmy
years. But
Schooler, yeah, I love
you,
Jimmy Schooler.
you know, outstanding one. He got us to Euro semi-finals.
Yeah.
We should have got it if he didn't sell Toshak that season. They would have. Just an absolute legend. Jimmy Andrews I always had a soft spot for because that was the great team, wasn't it, with the yellow and white stripe and football we played at that time. Which I think that was my favourite time watching City because it's like music, isn't it? Your favourite time is when you're a teen and you get into things at that time. Frankie Burrows, I thought was brilliant for us, and one of those managers I sort of briefly knew. So I'm always quite fond of him because of I got to know him, unlike any other managers as well. But yeah, we've had some good ones. You know, just unfortunately we tend to think we've been outweighed by the ones who haven't been so good. And but yeah, we've had some really good managers who've been close to the fans, and that's the sad thing with Bullet because I think he started this season so well.
Charisma, hasn't he?
Yeah, fans loved him. They loved everything he said, everything he did. Backed his every word, and it's turned full circle on him. That people are now thinking the exact opposite. He clearly is a good manager. He's lost his ways. And I think one of the points Mark made earlier about the structure of the club is spot on. I think Bullet needs assistance. There's no we hate the word director of football. He's got no mentor there. He's come into this country from Greece, and all he's got in terms of hierarchy is Kenshu, who's not a football man, and he's only around the club 2 days a week, and Dalman, who's in Monaco or some car, selling cars or whatever. There is no one there for him to speak to or get involved with on a day-to-day basis. So I don't think that helps. And I've heard stories that because he's only got a contract to the end of this season, his family aren't here, so there's a bit of homesickness creeping in, and I think all of these things just contribute to some of the challenges and difficulties that we're now seeing playing out. And I really want the guy to come good, finish the season strongly, and then let's see where we are in the summer. But I've got my doubts on that at the moment, to be honest.
Well, we've given Mark a few minutes to do his Wikipedia or whatever. Who's your three, Mark?
Well, I was lucky enough to meet Jimmy Andrews when I was a little boy, so he had a massive impression on me.
Oh, of course,
I used to call him Doctor Who because he reminded me of Doctor Who. I'm not going to mention Len Ashurst because my uncle fell out with him and that. I liked Eddie May.
Oh, Eddie May, gorgeous, of course.
That period because I was regularly attending the games then. But I think the most stable and the most enjoyable football was Dave Jones. I really liked that period there where that was a good football to watch. We were there or thereabouts all the time. Yeah, we didn't get the ultimate goal, but I really liked that era as well.
And so that's interesting because there was a couple of others. There's no mentions there for Markey. And Markey did a good job. Did a decent job. Whatever happened afterwards. Neil Warnock, got us back into the Premiership. Lots of opinions on Neil Warnock, but but the bottom line is, Mark, and and I loved Eddie. His book is great as well. But we've had some really good managers, right? So I just wonder how Jimmy Schooler would go about sorting out this this defense at the moment and getting to score some goals.
Well, it's a bit before my time, that one, but
how would one of our former managers? What do you think? What needs to be done? How do they lift the morale again?
Players thrive on positivity, stability. They thrive on knowing their role, and it's within their ability to perform their role. And there's none of that at the moment. So someone like Warnock would come in, look at the squad we've got, and would play a system and a team that would get the best. So like Nige said, he'd play a left footer in the right place. He'd play a right footer in the right place. It's not rocket science when
it's not rocket science.
So at the moment, I get a strong feeling from the players that they actually don't know what he wants.
Okay, and sorry, Mark, go on.
Yeah, I just think that somebody like Warnock, who's a good man manager as well, would get us playing. It might not be pretty football, but Defensively, we would stop leaking goals like we are at the moment, and offensively, we'd be tough to beat. We're not tough to beat at the moment.
No, I was talking about Warnock on the weekend with my brother-in-law. He's originally from South Wales, but he's one of these people who call himself a Liverpool fan, because they go from all over the place, don't they? But we were talking about Warnock and mixed opinions about him, and he wasn't everyone's cup of tea. But I'd say with Warnock, if he was managing your club, you probably got to like him at most of the clubs he was at. But one of the things he always talked about, Mark, was it's not about performances; it's about results to a large extent. The number of times we scraped a 1-0 or a 2-1, and he'd be there doing the old at the end of the game,
Yeah. I mean, he was renowned for that, and every single club he's been to, even clubs he's maybe left with a little bad taste in the mouths of the fans. He's respected. I mean, there's a poll on BBC Sport at the moment where he's just gone to Aberdeen, and you can.
And what's the first thing he's done?
And you can.
What's the first thing he's done, Mark? He's brought fucking Junior back, hasn't he?
Junior.
Exactly. Yeah, he knows that Junior is available. Is a free agent, and he can do a role for him. And like he did with Sol Bamba at Cardiff. He's got. He knows a good player. He knows how he can utilize them in a system that suits the rest of the players. Whereas there's a hint of, we needed players in a transfer window. We'll just get these because they're available, and we'll give them to the manager, and he can sort them out. And the manager's almost as if he's never seen the players before in his life. It's like, right, well, I've got to watch these on a training ground. I'll try this guy here, and I'll try him there, and then it's not working, so I'll put him there, and it's never going to be cohesive, is it?
No, I mean, we'll bring Steve back in a second, but Steve, I'll start. I've got a couple of questions to show you. But do you think Errol Bullett's that much younger? I think he's still in his late 40s, if I remember. So he's fairly young as a manager. He's bringing these fresh ideas, and he's trying things, but playing in the kind of the modern way, if you like, by having kind of inverted wingers and playing from the back and all that stuff. And do you think maybe it's just, we need to pull a bit more Warnock out of Mr. Bullitt?
That's a difficult one, isn't it? He's not Neil Warnock, and I agree with what Mark said there about Warnock coming in and getting the best out of the players that's there. At the moment, I don't think Errol Bullett's getting the best players out, getting the best out of the players. But I do agree the point that he is a young manager. He came in, and we were very excited at the start of the season. But it's how he reacts to adversity. How people are going to be good in good times. How has he reacted to that adversity? He's come out and said some possibly strange things about what, and now of course he's not got the players that he wants. So he's now stuck with the players who basically he said he doesn't really think they're good enough. So that's not going to help the relationship, whatever we may or may not see on the pitch. It's not going to help the relationship between the manager and the players that he's been saying these things about wanting to get them replaced.
So I'm a little bit surprised, Steve. I've got a question for you to bring up on the screen in a second, but I'm a bit surprised. People like Dwight Gale, these kind of people who are knocking around without a club at the moment. There are players out there. There are free agents out there. I think Warnock could bring someone like that in myself.
Yeah. Dwight Gale could be on his way to Derby, I understand.
Yeah.
He's going to score goals.
Yeah.
He'll score goals. Right. So,
sorry, go.
We've got a question from Howard Rees. Hi, Howard. Good to hear from you. Haven't heard from you for a while. Good to hear from you. Do you think that Bullitt has been sold a pup? Did Dalman tell him the truth about City? I'm asking you, Steve, unfortunately, because you're on spot here, yeah. And tactically, which we talked about, we look an absolute mess at the moment. Keep the faith.
Yeah, I agree. We looked a total mess tactically at the moment. But both the last two away, the away game we won at Watford, we did get away with it a little bit in that we took Colwell off when he was doing well. Similarly, we had got back in the game. We could have pushed it on, and the best play from us was coming down the right hand side with Carlin Grant and Ruben Colwell, and then Carlin gets put on the other side, and we're immediately up against it.
Yeah.
Was Bullitt sold a pup? I think at the start he was aware of the fact that we were under an embargo, but I think it's probably told that come the January window we will be able to get players in, and he was clearly frustrated. He said, of course, he wanted to get his players in early. Also saying he wanted to get Kiefer in, but if what Kiefer says is correct, and he was always going to Ipswich where's that come from? I'm not sure. Did Dalman tell him the truth about the City? Well, it wouldn't have took him too much digging to find the truth. I wouldn't have thought. Thanks, Howard. Yeah, we're keeping the faith. We have no choice in keeping the faith.
Yeah, it's inbred into us. And what's your thoughts on Nat Phillips so far, Steve?
Well, I think we're missing McGuinness to come back
Absolutely,
to Mark's point as well. Did we want to play 3 centre backs? Did we want to bring in the quality further the third centre back at the moment? Very impressed with his goal line clearance when it was still 0-0 on Saturday. But at the moment, my jury's still out on all new players. I'd like to see Turnbull given a bit more sort of free rein, because I understand from knowing people who know Celtic supporters that apparently he would get the ball and he would shoot from anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that would have gone down quite well with Vincent Tan, having encouraged David Marshall to shoot from anywhere, of course, all those years ago. But it's also very difficult to see what he can do with the role he's got, because quite often I'm seeing on the pitch, particularly in away games, that we'll bring in the ball out of the back, and it's very frustrating for the fans that they're turning and passing about, but actually they've got nobody to pass to. They're not making runs, or if they are making runs, they're not being picked up. Yeah. They'll bring the ball out, they'll look up. Nobody is trying to get away from the player. They seem to be, they seem to not want to move away from the player that's marking them. You've got to try and get in some space. You've got to time around. Nobody's doing that. And also, if we're playing to play on the break, then we need to be able to break at pace. And we need to be able to get the ball forward, not go sideways, back to the keeper, across the back 4 again, allowing teams like Norwich and West Brom to then get their 2 banks of 4 or whatever back to stop us playing. I mean, then we've got to start thinking about threading a needle. We have to play in one way or another. And again, I said on a previous show when Al was on, and I think Al was a bit exasperated by it, we've not got the players to play possession football and play out from the back. We've not got the players to play the long ball up to now.
So, and also going back to what you said there, Steve, of course, the other thing about breaking at pace, we break at pace, and let's face it, Josh Bowler, he hasn't got a right foot really, and vice versa, so you can break at pace. If you still can't put the ball in the box, what's the point?
Well, yeah, agreed. And come back to the fact we've got Isaac Davis on loan. I remember the difference he made. Was it the home game against Huddersfield a couple of seasons ago?
I agree with Mark. I'd have them both back. I would have had them both
Absolutely.
back. Honestly.
He could take the ball to the byline. He could get the ball in. Kiefer's waiting in there. Bang, goal. What would Jeju be like if somebody actually got a ball in he could head? My jury's got to be out on him until I can see that. But at the moment, as you say, we've got Carlin on one side, who's probably been one of our best players this season, but he does cut inside. And Josh Bowler's playing on the right with a left foot. So he's never going to be able to get the byline and move back in with his right foot, because he's always looking to cut inside and hit a shot. Yes, it worked against Watford, and he scored in the opening game of the season, of course, against Leeds. But apart from that, I can't really think. I think didn't even Errol say he was thinking of taking him off at Watford as well. And then this was even before half time. He's thinking about taking him off. Sorry, go on.
So I'm just going to come to Nige, because we're into the last kind of a few minutes, but it's we're all kind of chomping at the bit because there's so much to talk about tonight. So this is an obvious question, Nige, right? From Andrew Davis. So Carlin Grant at other clubs, we know actually for a long time. I think West Brom with Robinson actually had a really good partnership. He scored loads of goals. He's got a good shot on him. Yeah. I personally, I'd love to see him as part of a 2 up front. Him and a big lad. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Mate because he's physical, and Grante, causing problems.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Huddersfield, did he get 20 in a season there at Huddersfield? That's what got him his 13-15 million pound move to West Brom in the first place. Yeah. He's a very strong forward. He works hard. He would what he said to central defenders because he's got something about him. To me, I think he's worth a try as a centre forward. And you put Esbrand on the left, which he's got natural pace. I know he's brought in as a left back, but they brought him to play further up, and that's definitely worth a try. I think Paul Aberdeenato in the Echo today said you should be giving Grant a try at centre forward. I'm quite amazed that he's not tried it at any time this season, bearing in mind he seems to have shuffled just about everything else around. He's always kept Grant on that one side. He did do a little bit on the right on Saturday, didn't he? But he never played him as a striker.
No. You know, that seems a crazy one to me. I mean, because there's absolutely no width, because if we don't play with wing backs, we got a converted left back playing at central defence. We got wingers who can't use the foot they want to cross with. You know, the centre forward. You know, might as well just bring the oranges on at half time. You know, he just ain't ever going to get a ball, is he? You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And Grant's got a bit of pace, doesn't he? So you know, he's someone who can run at these centre back. None of the rest of them do. They don't get enough service anyway.
No.
But Grant is also quite physical in a way that I know Mate can be, but he's very one-dimensional, Mate, in his approach about it. When you're playing Grant on the left side, it's not as if he's taking on the defender to get round the back of him to put a ball over anyway, is it? It's always same as Bowler on the opposite side. It's cutting inside to try and drift the ball in, or have a crack from outside the box, and there's no variation to the tactic, and that's what makes it so
variation. It's just absolutely. I mean, we can, you know, the Preston game is a good point. Case in point, it was just so predictable. Leeds was even worse, really.
Yeah.
So the other question I'll ask you now, and I'll maybe just spin around Mark and Steve. If you think about it, you know, it looks like we don't know how long, but unfortunately, Aaron and I thought he was starting to look pretty good against West Brom. Actually, when he came on, he set one up and he scored one himself. But he looks like he's out. And then you got Robinson out for I don't know what, forever sort of thing. So then that leaves you with two potential number 10s, Turnbull and Colwill. So how do you fit those two? You know, can you fit those two into the same starting 11?
You can. I think Colwill looks a 10. You know, even now he's still never getting that chance playing behind the forward, is he, or supporting the forward. I would put him in there. Turnbull should be able to advance. You know, he looks like a player who can get beyond the last defender. And I think his goal scoring record at Celtic is 1 in 4. I think he scored 25 and 100 goals for him. So, you know, if you're not going to get him near the penalty area to have a shot in the first place, he's not going to provide any goals for you. And what I've seen of him so far, he's just not getting advanced enough to be able to do anything to create or offer a shot. So I think some of this is down to the approach and the mentality. You know, we said about the front football, the high press. When Cardiff, the start of the season, worked hard on and off the ball. And they don't seem to be doing it with either now. You know, we're quite easy, aren't we? You know, we played, what was it, the 5 at the back on Saturday at Norwich, and Norwich was still able to go straight through us time and again. You know, to me, it just feels about the approach and the tactics have got to be smartened up. We were doing things so right for 3 months this season and so wrong for the last 4 months. It just defies belief.
Yeah. So from Chris Hughes Jones makes a point of responding, Mark, to what Nigel just said. Has Turnbull actually had a shot after 3 games? Is probably, I'm not sure that he has. But when he came to us, I'm not having to go at him, by the way, because maybe it's just the way we're setting up. But my mate Jeff, he lives in Ireland. You know, he knows a lot of Celtic fans. You know, and he was so excited about him, and he thought he'd be our new John Buchanan. You know.
Yeah, I think he hasn't had the opportunity that he needs quite yet. I mean, what did he score? 7 goals in 30 odd games or whatever it was. So I agree that Carlton Grant might benefit from a run at centre forward, but the midfield needs sorting out as well. It's pointless. Fill it out with the centre. A goal scorer if you've got no support coming from behind, and it's just all over the place. It's just all over the place. I mean, I would be tempted perhaps to just use one at home, use one defensive midfielder and Colwill.
Yeah, 4-1-4-1. I quite like.
Yeah. That would be creatively and attacking minded more, but he seems to persist with this 2 number 6s or whatever it is, and it's just not working, and he can't see. He must be able to see it. He just thinks that he can't trust other players to do the job. Or maybe that's how they played in Greece and Turkey all the time. Was that system? You know how he played. That was his system. Yeah, but it's not working. It's just
I think that's a really good point, Mark, about it being a system, because before he came in, I think he was asked, you know, what tactics do you like to play? So I think he said, was it 4-1, 4-1, 2-1 or something, or whatever it was. Each of them was like a variation of 4-3-3. Anyway, I can't do the maths in my head now. But the point is, he doesn't seem to have fluctuated much from that. He had that kind of vision. That's the way he likes to set up. 4-2-1-3 was the other one. So you end up with like 4-3-3. That's the way he likes to play, and that's why we end up, Mark, maybe with the two defensive midfielders. But of course, the other problem we got is, if you think about it, Joe Rawls, he's out of contract then the season as it stands as well. Mixed opinions on him, but he's a natural left-footed midfielder. He's the only one we got.
You can't, but you can play Rawls as a kind of box-to-box number 8 kind of player, but you can't play Wintle and Siopis. It just doesn't work, and it's one or the other for me. And Wintle is best when he sits in front of the back 4 or back 3 or whatever and mops up. Siopis kind of the same as a disruptor, but then you need more creativity in the middle then, and that's where it's going all wrong, because when you've got two defensive midfielders, Siopis try as he might, he does spray the ball around a bit, but his distribution is sketchy at best at the moment.
And he's so tiny as well. He gets battered off the ball all the time. Exactly. I like him, but he's tiny.
Yeah, I mean, he stood out when he first came in. And I said when I was on the show, perhaps the creativity and the vision of Ramsey when he was fit made it easier for
definitely
to find a ball. But unless we sort the midfield out, it doesn't matter what we do up front. It's not going to change.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll come to Steve on this, but the other thing, of course, with Joe Rawls having a left foot, I think the other signing we desperately needed to make in general was a left-footed creative player, which we just haven't got. But so you've got the Turnbull-Colwell equation, Steve. What would you do? What would you do about that? What's your thoughts on maybe changing the formation?
I think Ruben Colwell as number 10 has got to be in the side at the moment, on the basis that he is, in the absence of Ramsey, he is the only player likely to create something going forward for us. Yeah. And the combination between him and Karlan Grant that does work quite well. As to Turnbull, I'd like to see him playing a little bit more forward. If things get a bit more crowded towards the front, that can't be a bad thing, surely, because at the moment we are far too defensive. And as Nigel said there, we're playing 5 at the back against Norwich, and they're still going through us. I'm reminded of the game against West Brom that finally saw McCarthy lose well when he played 5 centre backs, 1-0 down in 5 minutes, and then we were completely shocked. It was very similar on Saturday. I thought if perhaps cup half full type of person that I am, I was thinking if we could just get through to half time, 1-0 on Saturday, he might be able to do something to change. Yeah. We let in 2 ridiculous goals right at the end of the first half, and then when we should actually have been going in. But the Preston game as well, we did actually do quite well the first half hour.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And then of course, as soon as Preston scored, we literally their first
heads
attempt
went down.
Heads just visibly dropped. And I think if we go a goal down, I really fear for us at the moment, because we've got no way getting back in. If we had somebody who could be a target man, but if we're constantly trying to get people to cut in and hit shots which have to be absolute worldies to beat the goalkeeper, luckily we got one at Watford. But at the moment, I think we need to change our tactic. If we're going to bring in Yeju, which we obviously have, let's give him some service. My jury's out on him. Let me see what he's like. If somebody actually plants a cross onto his head, what can he do with it?
Okay, so we're overrunning slightly, but there's a really good question to end up with. And we got two massive games, haven't we, coming up? Massive games, I think, particularly maybe for Errol Bullitt, actually. So Nigel kind of encapsulates it here. But just spin round on this. Should we go to you, Nigel, first? What do you think? Next 2 games will decide our season.
Yeah, I do believe that. If we 4 points minimum from the next 2 games, and ideally the win to come tomorrow, because I think if we fail to beat Blackburn, that's just going to increase the pressure and the bad mood feeling about Manchester City fans. We should put these teams away. It's 2.5 months since we last won a home game. It's just crazy. And that last home win was probably the worst game of the season against Millwall. They're another team down.
Goal as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, but I would settle for the same tomorrow if we could just get the ugliest 1-0 win. I want to see us play football, but the points would matter more than anything else. I don't want Bullet to set up negatively again. I
No.
just want to see
He's
us get
gotta
a
go for
win
it.
tomorrow.
I think he's got to go for it. Do you want to
He's
as well,
got to.
Nige, give us it's a nasty one to ask tonight by the way it's going, but give us a couple of results.
I'm going to go for a win tomorrow and a draw against Stoke on Saturday, and I'd be happy with that.
Okay, I think we all probably would be. Mark?
Will it define the season? I'm not sure. Might define Errol Bullett's season.
Yeah, I agree.
I will go for, keep it brief because I know you're running late. I'll go for 1-0 win, Blackburn, and hopefully a draw.
Okay, Steve?
Is it going to define the season? I don't think it define the season, but I think it's going to give us a good indication of where the season's going to go. I'm going to be positive, as I can't go tomorrow being a midweek game. I want to see a win on Saturday when I'm going to be there, so I'm going to go for 2 wins. 1-0 and 2 wins.
Okay,
That'll do.
Great. I mean, we managed to get some positivity out of it anyway. We always predict City again. I mean, whatever happens, don't we? So.
Yeah, exactly. But Leicester away, we'd be predicting they'd win or draw.
But yeah, thanks guys. Good show. Speak soon. Cheers all. Bye bye.
Thank you.